Can a part-timer who can't fully pull their weight not listen to what I say? We're giving you support, and because of us, you can live your life now, you know? Discussing moving in together behind my back, and even assuming I'd act as a maid, is just crazy. It's clear they're underestimating me, thinking I won't talk back or retaliate, but they'll regret it soon. I'm Holly, a 70-year-old housewife. At 70, due to health and pension concerns, many stop working, but I can't stay still due to my personality and continue to work even now. Always wanting to try new things, I can't just stay cooped up at home alone, so I keep working part-time. I started working part-time at my current job 30 years ago, and though it's weird for me to say, I'm quite the veteran now. I once worked as an office worker at a moderately well-known company locally. Thinking office jobs, without sales or physical labor, would allow me to work long-term, I joined after graduating high school, but it seems my body reached its limit without me realizing. Facing a grumpy boss every day at work, a senior who drove many to resign by constantly doling out sarcasm to those he disliked, and the office queen whose word was law. The office was a parade of strong-willed bosses and seniors. Thus, my hope of steadily working until retirement after high school graduation crumbled all too easily. However, during what could be called my darkest period, there was a moment of light. Meeting my current husband. Somehow our eyes met often when salespeople started visiting, possibly due to some direct sales pitch. Is there something on my face? Why do you keep looking? I fell in love with your beautiful smile at first sight. Would you like to have lunch together during the break? Out of curiosity about who would say such a thing, I agreed to go to lunch with him. That was the start of our relationship growing deeper. It didn't take long for us to start dating. I'll make you happy. Shall we support each other and live our lives together? After accepting his proposal, we got married. Back then, married life was pure happiness to me. The reason it's in the past tense relates to my resignation and my husband's behavior. Even after marriage, wanting to add a bit more comfort to our household finances, and because I had resolved to retire from the company I was determined to work at until retirement, I continued working without taking maternity leave. Before marriage, I had told my husband I wanted to work at my current company for a long time, and he was very supportive back then. There's no rule saying you have to quit your job after getting married, and you can never have too much money, right? I want you to work with me until retirement. Soon after getting married, I became pregnant and gave birth, so the need to work for financial reasons was natural. However, I would come to regret this decision later on. Shortly after marriage, caught between unfamiliar married life and stress at work, I fell ill. I was transferred to a different department and tasked with unfamiliar work, and also faced unreasonable accusations from my boss, which led to losing control over my physical and mental health. Being married, I couldn't just decide to quit on my own. I had consulted with my husband several times before resigning. Lately, maybe because of stress, I've been feeling unwell. I'd like to quit my job and focus on treatment. Really? Are you sure it's not just in your mind? But well, that's fine, I guess. Despite detailed discussions about the reasons for my resignation, post-resignation life plans, and managing household finances, my husband seemed indifferent. I talked about it many times, so he must be listening. He seemed indifferent, but he responded, so he must understand, right? That's what I thought until a certain point. Then, on the day I resigned, holding the bouquet from my coworkers, I came home to find my husband looking furious. You really quit your job? Just ran away because of stress or something? What are we going to do about our lives now? Really? I've consulted with you about this many times, haven't I? So, the talk about both of us continuing to work was a lie? Knowing I wanted us to work together, you lied just to get married sooner? Suddenly, my husband started yelling, snatched the bouquet from my hands, and threw it forcefully to the floor. I thought if both of us worked, our finances would be secure, and having a woman to take care of the housework would make life easier, but now we're stuck with someone useless. On the night I resigned from my job, feeling worn out, I glimpsed my husband's true nature. After graduating from a prestigious university, my husband joined a well-known major company and worked in a high-profile sales department. It was striking to hear from his colleagues and seniors that my husband, as a hard-working salesman supporting his family, was admired by many. However, I realized he was actually someone who lacked confidence in supporting the family on his sole income and married me with the intention of dumping all the household chores on me. Not because he wanted to support each other through life. So, he was living a life wearing a mask of a respected salaryman working hard for his wife and son on the outside, which I found quite despairing. As my health gradually improved, I started looking for something I could do, such as part-time work. Furthermore, I heard from a friend that blogging, writing diary-like entries on the internet, was popular, so I bought a computer with the money I had saved from my part-time job. Then, I continued to study on my own during the gaps in my part-time work and late at night when my family was asleep. Originally, I loved studying and challenging myself to new things, so blogging wasn't a hardship for me at all. However, since falling ill, my husband always looked at me with a face as if he had bitten into something bitter. Probably thinking poorly of me for quitting my full-time job. He seems to think part-time work is just a hobby for those who can't be full-time, often belittling me with comments like, "Don't get cocky with the little money you make from part-time work. Don't neglect household chores just because of your little hobby." His sarcastic comments were truly unpleasant, but I tried to ignore them as a form of stress relief. However, I hadn't realized that ignoring his sarcasm wouldn't protect me from an impending crisis. One day, my son said he had decided to marry and wanted us to meet her. "I'm currently dating someone at work, and I want you and Dad to meet her." "Finally, you're introducing someone you're dating. I'm happy, son. Just don't bring home someone unimpressive like her." "No way. She's a wonderful woman, not unimpressive at all, unlike Mom. Plus, I've already told her about Dad. She's eager to meet the elite dad who works at a very famous company." My son has always looked up to his father, who works at the forefront of a famous company. It seems he believes that because his father is capable enough to work at a big company, he must be capable himself. Perhaps because my husband makes derogatory comments about me, my son seems to look down on me somewhat, with his sarcasm evident in his words. Currently, my son works as a full-time employee at a nearby supermarket, dating a part-time woman there. Honestly, being an only child and over 40, not to mention not the most pleasant personality, I thought marriage might be difficult for him, so this news was incredibly joyful. On the day we had arranged, my son brought his girlfriend home. "Nice to meet you, I'm Michelle." Feeling chills at her nasal voice and upward gaze. She wore an off-the-shoulder knit and a very short skirt, dressed too flamboyantly and revealing for her age. Whether it was a woman's intuition or a parent's. Seeing her, I wondered if this was appropriate attire for meeting one's future in-laws, feeling an ominous premonition. However, my husband seemed to like her at first sight. "What a lovely lady you've brought. I'm so happy to have such a cute woman." If he had just liked my son's girlfriend at first sight, that would have been fine. But he started to constantly belittle me while praising her. "Wow, Michelle, you look cute in that blouse today. It really shines when a beautiful woman wears it. If my wife wore that, it'd be pearls before swine." "Stop it, saying that is disrespectful to both pigs and pearls." While I could ignore some of it, it was unpleasant to be persistently mocked. At one point, feeling so upset I went silent, my husband and Michelle taunted me. "What's wrong? You look so scary, what happened? Are you considering Michelle a rival? How shameful. I can't believe you think you're even in the same league." Then, my son added insult to injury. "Mom doesn't dress properly because she doesn't work properly. That's why you always look so sloppy." Being demeaned not only by my husband and Michelle but also by my own son was too much. Nevertheless, there seems to be a bond between my son's wife and my husband that goes beyond the usual in-law relationship. I decided to let them be, thinking I couldn't keep up. Ignoring my husband and Michelle due to discomfort only led to increasingly intolerable behaviors. They frequently went out and brought back hefty receipts. It wasn't rare for my husband to return late at night by taxi, flushed and with receipts nearing $2,000 from outings with my son and his wife. Considering our age and the uncertain future of our employment, the fury at their lavish spending was nearly trembling. On another occasion, they discussed staying at a luxury inn in Alaska, excluding me from the plan. "Next time, let's go to a luxury inn that just opened in Alaska. I hear the course meals are to die for." My son, always in the know. "I'd love to go, but the money." My son glanced at my husband with longing, to which my husband confidently replied, "Leave it to me. With my company's bonus, we can live large. I'm so happy. Dad, you're amazing. I want to eat lots of seafood." It seemed the accommodation would be entirely on my husband, costing several $1,000s per person per night. How come, isn't Holly staying with us? Of course not. Sharing a room with her? That'd be a waste of money. Yeah, such a nice room would be wasted on her. Hearing them mock me was shakingly humiliating. After returning from the luxury inn trip with my son and his wife, my husband suddenly declared he was building a new house. "A new house? But we already have this one." "It's my decision. You have no say in this. Building a house isn't simple, especially not at our age. Having a house doesn't necessarily mean a secure future." "What about the money we'll need for our retirement?" "I'm nearing retirement. Whether I retire on time or extend my employment, we'll have enough money. We can take out a mortgage and manage our assets. This is why women who don't understand finances are a problem." Facing my husband's onslaught of jargon felt unnerving. Even though he talks about getting a loan easily, it's not guaranteed that the application will be approved under the conditions we expect. "Easy for you to say about getting a loan, but what about the approval at our age?" "If we apply for a joint loan, there shouldn't be a problem. I've consulted with an expert. There won't be any issues." Despite using an expert's advice to persuade me, I remained unconvinced. "Are you sure about that loan? Since when did you become so important? Are you saying the expert is wrong? This is an order from the head of the household." Although abrupt, our current home had its inconveniences for retirement life. If not remodeling, rebuilding might be an option. Perhaps my husband was considering a comfortable retirement life for us, albeit grudgingly. But this was just wishful thinking on my part. The new house was quickly constructed with a modern design, seemingly more suited for the younger generation, and lacking any accessibility features. "This design is unique for us to live in. It seems large, cleaning will be tough." "What are you talking about? We're moving in with our son and his wife." Unbeknownst to me, my son and his wife had requested the new house. My husband, fond of Michelle, saw building a new house as an opportunity for cohabitation. They agreed eagerly, anticipating a comfortable life, without needing to do any household chores themselves, at my expense. "You're living with us, right? I might ask you to do a lot of housework." "Asking for housework? Really?" "Our adorable son and his wife relying on you will bring excitement to our retirement life. I already have something I'd like to ask." My daughter-in-law, Michelle, had accumulated a lot of belongings, and the moving process wasn't going as planned. The room, cluttered with designer bags and clothes my husband had bought her, left me speechless. Then, my husband asked me to help Michelle. "You wouldn't abandon Michelle in her time of need, right? We'll be living in the new house first, so bring her stuff over when you can." My husband, son, and Michelle never imagined how their underestimation of me could backfire. Michelle, not adept at organizing, seemed to need at least 2 weeks to get everything in order. Despite the daunting task ahead, the thought of our future life spurred me on. On the final day of packing for Michelle, I offered with the kindest smile. "Michelle, you must be tired from all the packing and moving. I've booked a hotel nearby for you to rest tonight. It might be better to start fresh in the new house after a good rest." "Thank you. You're surprisingly thoughtful. I have a bit more to do here, so I'll take my leave. Good night. Little did Michelle know, I had a plan in mind. After parting with Michelle, I headed straight for the airport. A ticket for a flight to Hawaii, this was my one-way ticket to freedom, escaping from what had become a personal hell. In fact, as soon as the new house was finished, I had started taking serious steps towards divorce. I consulted a lawyer known for handling divorce cases, discussing not only my husband and my son's wife's problematic behavior but also the domestic issues within our home. Arriving in Hawaii by a night flight, I slept soundly for the first time in a long while. The next morning, I noticed a call from my husband and decided to answer it. Hey, is Michelle's moving done? Yeah, finished. I've just moved to a new place in Hawaii. I could hear my husband's dumbfounded voice over the phone. Hawaii? What, on a trip? You think I'd go on a trip by myself at this time? His incredulous silence was almost audible, and I struggled to suppress my laughter. Regaining his composure, he blustered. I didn't hear anything about Hawaii. Quite the luxury to take a solo trip to Hawaii at this time. I didn't say it was a trip. He still seemed to believe this was just a whimsical solo journey of mine, that I would eventually return. Not working much and yet. You know your duties are here in this house. Come back soon. Oh, you must be mistaken. It's a divorce. My words must have hit him hard, as he started to panic over the phone. Divorce, all of a sudden? What, you think you lost me to Michelle? Competing with her, how shameless of you. Jealous of Michelle getting along with you and thus wanting a divorce, is that your storyline? Don't make me laugh. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon, so make sure to sign the papers. Initially, my husband dismissed my words as a joke, but the mention of a lawyer seemed to have a significant impact. How can you say divorce? This house has a joint loan in your name too. How could you just decide on a divorce? With a joint loan, it's a condition that I live in the house, right? So, divorce means we'd have to reapply for the loan. I'm sure the lawyer will explain all this to you, so please cooperate. A joint loan implies that both parties must reside in the home. Divorcing and restructuring the loan would be a considerable challenge. Having a capable lawyer made the process, from the loan to divorce and asset division, much more manageable in my favor. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you something important. I've applied for a preliminary garnishment on your retirement fund and other benefits. The company has been informed of the details. What? Garnishment? My retirement fund? You think you can just do that? Not just divorce but aiming for my retirement money too? Hearing about the garnishment, he started yelling through the phone, clearly panicked. To the outside world, I'm seen as a family-loving husband, a father respected by his children. Who would believe such a thing? All those lies and pretenses are bound to unravel eventually. Of course, I had considered all these factors before informing his workplace and applying for the garnishment. And just so you know, are you familiar with the concept of marital assets? Well, as I mentioned, you'll be hearing everything from the lawyer. It seems your company is already aware, so let's see what happens next. From the other end, I could hear my son and Michelle making a fuss. It seemed they were complaining about who would do the household chores and errands in my absence. Then either my husband handed them the phone, or they took it upon themselves to scold me directly. Hey, if you don't come back, who's gonna take care of the house? You expect Dad or Michelle to do it? There's no rule on who has to do the housework. We're all adults, right? Besides, shouldn't you be more worried about not looking for affairs on dating apps instead? I had heard from a friend that my son was on a dating app. At first, I was incredulous, but the profile, though photoshopped, was unmistakably my son. Discovered because he had been persistently messaging my friend's daughter. Single man, second son, working in a listed company, faithful personality who cherishes his loved one. I see. What? Accusing me of cheating? Are you harassing me, Mom? I never imagined my son would be the type to secretly engage in affairs. As he floundered and lashed out in denial, I continued without concern. It's not harassment, I'm just reading what's written here. Michelle knows about this profile, right? I've just sent her the link. Michelle's outcry was audible after she presumably checked the profile. I don't know if this is some kind of Photoshop or what, but is this harassment? Please stop it. Stop it? That's my line, Michelle. You've been taking out loans in my name, haven't you? I had received several debt collection notices for debts I didn't recognize, so upon investigation, it turned out they were taken out by my son's wife, Michelle, and since they couldn't collect from her, they came to me. I don't know what you've been spending it on, but living beyond your means to indulge in luxuries will only ruin you. After living off your husband's money for years, you have no right to lecture me. You might see it that way. I've also consulted a lawyer about your debts, along with my husband's issue, so you'll be hearing from them too. My husband and Michelle were still muttering something over the phone, but I didn't have the time to waste, so I hung up. The day after my day off, when my husband went to work, it seems he was given the cold shoulder by everyone on his floor. According to what he heard from a colleague, the news about the preliminary garnishment of his retirement funds had somehow leaked, and many people came to know about it. As a top salesman on the fast track, he had a few offers for re-employment or a position at a partnering company, but those opportunities were cut off due to the rumor about the garnishment, and he ended up resigning. Though he barely managed to restructure the loan, their lavish lifestyle up to that point meant they were living hand to mouth. You said something different. You claimed your job at the supermarket was part of learning business management, and you'd eventually work at a big company through Dad's introduction, right? It can't be helped since Dad quit his job. You're the one who always asked Dad for things. Why don't you sell some of those branded items you begged for and add to the household income? It's no joke. If your father had fallen this low, I never would have married you. Michelle had decided to marry my son partly because she thought she was getting an elite father-in-law. So she was initially furious when the reality was different. It seems my son also promised her a lavish lifestyle, claiming that once he got a job through my husband's influence at a big company, they could have anything they wanted. However, that never materialized. Michelle's screaming and rampages caught the attention of the neighbors, and at one point, they even required intervention from the authorities. Her abnormal behavior and outbursts eventually led to mental health issues. And stress-induced binge eating made her gain so much weight that she couldn't support her own body, leading to her being banned from some stores, as I was told by acquaintances from the old neighborhood. Starting over at this age requires a significant effort, but that seems unlikely now. My son's situation was no better. He had been fired from the supermarket job after causing trouble with a customer. I had heard about his problematic customer service before, but it escalated into a full-blown argument that he couldn't control, leading to his dismissal for causing destruction to store property and merchandise. He often boasted about not belonging in such a trivial job, claiming he'd work at a big company and make a name for himself, but his future looks bleak now. I'll show you, I'm not someone to be stuck in a place like this. Even after losing his job, he continued to boast on social media, trying to appear bigger than he was. Moreover, believing his father had money, he did nothing for job hunting, spending his days between home and gambling. Michelle, as a woman, you should at least be able to do some housework. I have no business taking orders from a jobless, penniless father-in-law. My husband, who had never done housework, tried to pass it all on to Michelle as he did with me, leading to ugly disputes. Hearing such unbearable details from acquaintances suggests the actual situation must be quite bad. As for me, after the divorce was finalized, I'm now living a free life in Hawaii. Thanks to secretly continuing my blog alongside part-time work for years, I had saved a considerable amount of money. My husband was too busy making snide remarks to notice what I was doing, let alone the existence of the blog or the savings that allowed me to buy a new house. Moreover, my long-term blogging caught the attention of a company interested in my work on travel and local information, leading to an offer to write about the charms of different places. Choosing Hawaii, a place I had long admired, turned out to be the right decision. The warm welcome from the locals, even to someone from outside the area, has been nothing but grateful. Living alone now, I quickly made friends, leaving no room for loneliness in my daily life. I'm glad that years of hard work have allowed me to achieve a happy and free life like this. Just like the people living in this area, I too want to continue living my life with compassion towards others.